G'day guys! Remember, if you enjoy Duskbowl or the Horrors You've Never Heard Of series, please help out the channel by clicking the living stuff out of the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and then, of course, clicking the actual subscribe button, being the notification bell. I just want to give a massive thank you to our newest patron, Skulk Queen. If you see her in the comments, do us a favour and say g'day. Now, on to the next episode of Horrors You've Never Heard Of. In the small town of Towitta, there is a lonely homestead, surrounded on all sides by hundreds of kilometres of vast, empty grassland. Long abandoned, this dilapidated building carries the stains of a tragedy over 100 years old. There is no sound inside the house. But if you listen closely, you might just make out the whisper of what happened to Bertha Schippan. It is January the 1st, 1902. And Mr. and Mrs. Schippan have climbed atop their horses and are waving goodbye to their family as they ride 25 kilometres, 16 miles, to the nearby Eden Valley. The couple, leaving their eldest daughter Mary in charge, expect to be gone for just the night. Being 24 years old, they trust that Mary will take good care of her sister and two brothers. The Schippan brothers decide to sleep in the barn that night, looking forward to staying up late, unsupervised. Mary and her 13-year-old sister Bertha, on the other hand, get the entire house to themselves. Mary and her sister sit up on the couch, talking the night away, laughing and joking, until Mary, reluctantly, finally has to instruct her sister to go to bed before going herself. The vast expanse surrounding the homestead is devoid of sound. Barely a breeze is heard. And so far from town and its light pollution, on moonless nights, the property may as well be a void. It is 10 p.m, and Mary wakes to a cold chill on her shoulders and neck. Her sheets must have fallen down in her sleep. Groggily, she feels down her body, blindly searching for the blanket. All of a sudden, Mary's hand hits something soft. The familiar texture of hair. Confused and starting to worry, she tries to rise and see what she has found. But she can't. An immense weight has pinned her to the bed. The hairy mass rises slowly and comes into view, mere inches from Mary's face. In the pitch blackness, it's hard to see, but she can just make out the bearded face of a man. Wide-eyed horror hits Mary as she realizes what is happening to her. She screams and flails madly, shrieking until her throat burns, hoping against hope that her brothers or her sister will hear her. But Mary has lived on this property for her entire life. She knows that no sound travels here. She may as well be screaming into a pillow. But she won't give up. She continues to bite, scratch, and kick until, finally, in a fleeting moment of sheer luck, she shakes free. Mary throws herself from the man and makes a mad dash for the window, hurls herself out of it, and runs for the barn, screaming for her brothers to get up, help, please, as fast as they can. She beats on the barn door until her brothers swing it open, and she falls in. Panicked and screaming, she frantically explains what happened to her. The brothers wonder what to do until a horrifying realization sets in. Bertha is still inside. The brothers leave Mary in the barn and rush to go get their little sister. In seconds, they make it to the homestead and throw open the door. The grisly scene breaking them. There is blood dragged all the way down the hallway, smeared down the walls, covering the master bedroom and drenching the family couch. So much blood. Too much blood. And on that couch is 13-year-old Bertha, throat cut to the bone, and her body covered in over 40 stab wounds. When Mr. and Mrs. Schippan return, they find their children hiding in the barn, distraught. One question on everyone's mind: what happened to Bertha? Investigators and a coroner come to the house in the following days, and Mary explains her story. A story of a bearded man that attacked her and must have found her defenseless little sister. The investigators and the coroner search, but find no evidence to support Mary's story. There is absolutely no trace of anyone else ever being inside the house. So what happens? Well, suspicion turns to Mary. Investigators figure she must be a liar. She must have killed her little sister. But they run into a problem. There is also no evidence linking Mary to her sister's death. Anything even close to linking the two is easily dismissed as circumstantial. One major point of contention is, given the brutality of the scene, there would have to be at least some trace of struggle or blood on Mary. But there is none. Mary is arrested and charged with the murder of Bertha. The trial is held only a few months later in March, and is widely reported on and latched onto by the vultures in the media. The Shippans find themselves regularly harassed by journalists for the entire duration of the trial, and then long after. As expected, with virtually no evidence to back up her charge, Mary is acquitted of the crime. So then what? Few people believe Mary's story of the bearded man, and, with herself being acquitted, there is now a cold case with no real suspects. Starved for a story and seeing opportunity in any tragedy, the media figures the culprit must be Mr. Schippan. It is well known that Mr. Schippan isn't a particularly kind man. But is that enough to convict him of murdering his youngest daughter in the court of public opinion? To the journalists, it was a no-brainer. It is regularly explained to the media and others that it would have been impossible for Mr. Schippan to get from Eden Valley and back in the time needed to commit the crime. But this fact is conveniently ignored, and Mr. Schippan's reputation is forever marred. So you'd think that's where the story ends. A girl murdered by a phantom, her family heartbroken, and no suspects ever to be found. A classic cold case. But in 1903, a new mystery comes to light about Bertha Schippan. Upon investigating her coffin, the young girl's head is found to be severed and completely missing from the body. Outrage and panic are kicked up again. The community demands answers. Rumour begins to spread. Was it the phantom? Had he returned to mutilate his victim? No. It soon comes to light that the Crown, in Mary's case, had resorted to severing her sister's head with the hopes of uncovering some new evidence. When none was found, Bertha's head was buried by those same authorities at an unmarked location without the body or the consent or knowledge of the Schippan family. So now, almost 100 years later, what remains? Well, a lonely little homestead in a vast expanse of flat grassland, where sound disappears. And that is the story of Bertha Schippan, the Towitta Tragedy. G'day guys, it's me, Harry, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening to this episode. Duskbowl is, well, it's my passion project, and it just means so much to me that you support it. And if you'd like to support Duskbowl more, feel free to like, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. Anything at all that you could give would mean the absolute world. Your support really does mean everything to me. And I just want to apologise if you can hear trains and cars in the background. I've recently moved, so the whole setup is different. For a lot of you, this is going to be the first time you've actually heard Duskbowl, because obviously you didn't have the biggest following in the start. There are the tapes that if people new coming in want to listen to, feel free. They will give you a lot of context, I feel. I want to thank Romnex so much. I feel like a lot of you will be coming from her channel. Without her, I don't think Duskbowl would be getting the traction that it's getting at the moment. It really does mean a lot that she helped me out, and she is amazing. Please, if you aren't a subscriber of hers, please go to subscribe to her. She's absolutely fantastic. She does amazing horror narrations, and it is a crime she doesn't have a larger following than she does. If you want more Duskbowl, we're going to be uploading fortnightly, and on top of that, on our Instagram page, we actually have like a BARG found footage type story that's going on that you can go and enjoy, which I'm sure you'll get quite a lot out of. So that's on our Instagram page, which will be linked in the description. I'd also like to start having Duskbowl artwork competitions. So if you guys have any fan art that you have of Duskbowl, send it through to the Duskbowl email address, and then the winner of that competition for that week or fortnight will then have their artwork platformed both on our YouTube channel and on our Instagram page. Ash was voiced by the amazing Caroline Fester, and the always absolutely fantastic music that Duskbowl just wouldn't have an identity without is by Samuel Burke, a longtime friend of mine, and please go follow some of his music. I'll be linking some of his bands down in the description. And lastly, if you want to have an Australian accent in any of your projects, I'm a voice actor myself, so if you want to have me on board, feel free to hit me up on my Fiverr, which I'll also be linking in the description.